Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Will. We share international perspectives and insights on things like leadership and mindset with Monday Mindset, the travel and the travel business with Wanderlust Wednesday, and sports on Fanatic Friday. Each episode is about 20 to 30 minutes in length, so you can plan accordingly. Please make sure to subscribe, share, and follow so that you can spread the word as well as share feedback with us. We can incorporate things into the episodes. And lastly, but certainly importantly, thank you to Nick Menard and Associates of Dream Vacations for sponsoring today's episode. So happy Monday, Nick.
Happy Monday, Will. Happy Monday, winners. Hope you had a wonderful weekend.
Yes, hopefully so. And for those of you who are like me, who maybe enjoy one or multiple cups of coffee to get you going to start the week, hopefully you've got your Java, or if you have your natural Java and you're ready to rock and roll, we have a fun episode for you today. Last week, for those of you who joined us, we were talking about focusing on the critical few, and we also touched on economic prioritization, but we really weren't able to get into economic prioritization in depth. Today, we will continue that conversation on economic prioritization, as well as add a little bit in regards to being able to innovate and iterate, which is really important to today's world, the rapid pace of change, and you have to be able to learn, grow, innovate, and iterate, or you will be left behind. Is that not true?
It's 100% true. I mean, everybody try to find a new big thing or to find a new special cure or anything new in order to make it better. So, yeah, we need to be innovative in order to figure it out.
Yeah, and we'll touch on this in a little bit, but innovating doesn't necessarily mean you have to come up with a unique idea. Meaning like crafting it from scratch. Sometimes innovation comes from something that's already existing, and basically through iteration, you create an innovative approach that's better. So anyway, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But first, something that we're going to stick with for a while, so hopefully listeners, you enjoy it, and is our quotes and quips. Quotes and quips. So this first quote is... I don't know. I just like it. Stay with me a little bit. It's a little bit of a longer one, but there's a lot of nuggets of knowledge in this one. So we've heard the adage, don't, fake it until you make it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this quote is going to maybe put that on its ear a little bit. It says, don't fake it until you make it. Face it until you make it. Get up. Work hard. Fail. Stand back up. Face it again. Do it a little better. Fail again. Get back up. Repeat. Is that not iteration?
That's 100% that. And it's so accurate. So accurate. There's no failure. It's only learnings, unless you don't learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I know we've talked about this several times. Hopefully you're picking up on some themes, winners, that we talk about, and you're gleaning these as useful nuggets, but these principles are important, and hopefully you're able to apply it. The next is a quip. And again, a little difference between a quip and a quote. This one has a little bit of levity, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, analogy-oriented, things like that. This one, depending on when you're listening to this, winners, I will apologize in advance if your stomach starts rumbling, but let me just go ahead and read it. Again, unattributed quip on this one. If it was an attributed source, I would say it. But this one is, innovation is like baking cookies without a recipe. Expect a few burnt batches before you get it just right. Each attempt adds a new twist, and soon enough you made something entirely on your own. And there's been people I know who are really good at cooking and dabbling and baking, and they just a little extra ingredient here, a little less of an ingredient there, maybe a little longer, a little shorter, different temperature. And they end up coming up with some great dishes or bakery items. I hadn't heard innovation being compared to something like that, but I like it. What are your thoughts?
I love it. Hey, that's so true. I mean, I know some chef, in my in my country from origin in Belgium who are actually chef and own restaurants, and that's true. It's all about trying new things until you find something that it's unique or something that may resonate with your customer in that aspect. But it's the same in business, in the same in life in general. Like I said, no, never make mistakes. You just learn from what you do, and you repeat if it's work, and you change if it doesn't.
I think we're gonna have a little issue with this episode because I want a cookie. I'm getting hungry now. I'm thinking cookies.
Hey, you have to wait 20 minutes, 24 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there. So anyway, hopefully you like that, our winners. So let's continue first with economic
Yeah.
prioritization, kind of put a little bow on that topic. So when we were talking last week about economic prioritization, what we lightly touched on was about, hey, not everything is worth the same. So let me just kick it off a bit, and then I'll throw it over to you and have you expand upon it. But when I think about economic prioritization, always a lot of great things you can do. But if you try to do everything at once, you won't do anything well. So you have to focus on the critical few. Talked about that last week. But not everything's worth the same. And so sometimes you have to calculate like a back of the envelope math, return on investment, figure out what is something worth. Even if it's something that's not easily quantifiable, you can ballpark quantify it. So like training efforts, right? On the surface, it's hard sometimes to quantify whether or not training works. But if you think about what is the thing that it's supposed to impact and try to measure that, then you can start measuring an ROI. But not everything's worth the same. And one other thing that we'll touch on a little bit deeper as we go, but sometimes there's resource constraints. So I remember with an organization I was at, we had a CRM system we used to affectionately call Frankenstein's monster. Like it was around for so long, they just kept building upon it, patching it, everything. And it just got to a point where it was difficult to work with. But for years, we were saying, gosh, it would be great if we had a better CRM system, how it would increase visibility and collaboration. But for those of you who invest, especially in a larger organization with a CRM system, that's a significant investment, multi-million-dollar investment. So even though it was something we felt would have a very strong ROI, you just couldn't allocate the resources for it, or we didn't prioritize allocating the resources for it because there was other things we prioritized. So then sometimes that has to take a back seat, and you got to go to your next best thing that maybe isn't as resource intensive, and so that you can implement it and derive the benefits from it. But when you think about economic prioritization, what are some of the things that run through your mind?
Well, what you mentioned is more about budget, which makes total sense. When I hear this economic prioritization, I think about more small business. For example, with my travel agency, it's extremely heavy on training. As you can imagine, we have thousands of vendors that we work with every week. From cruise lines,
Like Virgin Voyages?
like Virgin Voyages, like land portion if you want to go to Europe
Or sandals?
or Barcelona, like we talked about already, Safari. You name it. But each vendors from all those places have their own trainings to teach us, the best way to present it to customers. Each have their own CRM to put the booking in. So you need to learn so much. So when it comes to economic prioritization and the way I work with my associates, it's understanding where to focus first. And you can look at it two different ways. One way is I want to focus on a niche. I want to focus in, I don't know, renting villas for corporations. It's just one aspect that we can do in dream vacations. Or I want to focus in cruising for families, for Royal Caribbean, for example. All right, great. There is no wrong answers. But focus it then. Spend the time, spend the energy to focus on the training, finish the training, pass the testing, become a certified, travel agent for that brand. And then you can be a specialist for this, and you will be able to advertise that better, market it better, talk about it better, experience it yourself if needed. which is needed, and it's fun at the same time. But before you turn to something different, all right? Or the second way to look at it is what kind of people around you, what do they like to do? So do they like to sail? Do they like to go on all-inclusive sandals in Jamaica every year? So whatever it is that you want to, that you have the people around you who are possible customers are most, have more chance to do, that's where you should be focusing. All right. But you cannot do everything. It's like we discussed last week, and it's the same that we will discuss today in part, is understanding why and where to focus first, have a clear plan of action for those things, and then stick with it until you achieve it. And like you said, like the quote said, not fake it until you reach it, but you need to actually do the work, understand the failures, understand the challenges, go through them, and then learn from them. So that's more the way I see it. You see it more as a budget, which is totally fine, and I see it more as a time consuming. And but it's pretty much the same because time is money.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I love that you brought that up because, that is economic prioritization with time. Like if something's going to take you 3 weeks to do and you're expecting some level of return from that, or something would take you 6 weeks to do. Some people might do the 3 week thing because it's faster, but if the 6 week thing is worth more, maybe that's staying the course. Or you could think about if you're doing economic prioritization with dinner. I sometimes will economically prioritize my dessert over an appetizer.
Here we go. Cookie comes back.
Yeah, I've got this cookie. I told you I was going to have cookie in my head this whole episode now. I want a cookie. All right. So anyway,
So dirty.
but at the end of the day, it is about allocating resources and trying to prioritize the things that matter most or mean more or have a better return, however you want to describe it. I will real quick, just because again, we have some of our listeners who listen to all of our episodes and we have Fanatic Friday. I love that the Green Bay Packers a few weeks ago economically prioritized a kicker instead of going with this rookie who just kept missing kicks and costing us games, and actually paid for a veteran and had 2 game-winning kicks in the first 2 weeks. That's good economic prioritization for Go Pack Go. Sorry.
So you see, economic prioritization, it can be about anything and everything. We talk about cookies, we talk about football, we talk about vacation, we talk about businesses.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of it. And that's something I love about, mindset leadership in general. When people say that, they said, "Oh, well, no, I'm not into that branch." But yes, you are. Like everything you do in life, has some aspect of mindset. You need to have a mindset to do anything, and at some time of leadership in relationships, in anything. So I love that we are able to talk about subjects that touch more than just people who are wearing a tie in an office 9 to 5. So that's the part, one of the part I like the most. And also the fact that we made mistakes all the time, and I want to share one of mine because I mentioned about the travel agency. When I first started, so I spent a week in Fort Lauderdale on a very intense training from 8 to 5, and in the evening we have like a show, with a bunch of vendors coming, trade show, whatever it's called. So it's nonstop for 5 days, and I was so excited. I wanted to do all the trainings. And I started working, in between. I took a shower. I have to go in an hour into that trade show. Let's start my logins and starting I did everything wrong. So literally everything I did the first 3-4 weeks, I was all over the place. Oh, someone asked me about Disney. I'm gonna do the Disney class. It's 24 hours, by the way. 24 is the longest class. If you want to become a travel agent one day and want to specialize in something specific, the Disney class, online class training is 24 hours. It's not like you can pass, like fast forward. You click play and it goes slide by slide, and you cannot fast forward. But then you have advantage, of course, when you finish it. You can teach, you can explain Disney a lot better because it's more than just Disney World and Disneyland, but it's another story for another day. But yeah, so I was doing that for two customers who asked me a simple question. I was able to get answer in 2 minutes on Google, but I'm like, no, I want to do the training. I want to do the right thing. So I was I did literally a full weekends and a Monday, like all day to finish my graduation for Disney. So it was rushed. I should have taken more time to do all of that. I got it. I was happy to make too little sale. And I'm like, what did I spend all my time to get just too little sale for someone going in Orlando for 4 days?
Some people might call that goofy.
Yeah, it's goofy.
Sorry,
It's good. Yeah, that's a good one.
I like that. I like
but,
that.
but yeah, no, just so that's why what you said is true. When sometimes when we have different tasks, we look at the task who is the one who is the easiest to handle or the fastest to handle, but maybe the one who takes more time is the one who will bring a lot more value on the short term. That's why now, when I add some associates into the business, I want to make sure that we have a plan. Okay, let's start with those three for the first month, and then when you understand, you do a couple of sales, we can move to another one. But again, you learn, you go and learn, like as you go, and you make mistakes, and it's okay, as long as you can teach to not make the same mistake for the person after you.
Yeah, we both used to work for a leader when you're sharing that, totally spot on, who introduced the concept that I know both you and I believe in strongly, version 0.5. Like
love it.
what version 0.5 is talking about is just do the planning work and things of that nature, but just get it going as quickly as you can so you can learn and iterate, because even the most robust planning will not be perfect upon launch, or at least the odds are highly stacked against it, because there's always things that come up that weren't accounted for, or things you learn as you start doing that needs tweaking and things like that. So I remember when this person first talked about the version 0.5, I'm like, yes, that is exactly the way I think we should do about it. And we talked about this in a previous episode as well. Like, don't let the pursuit of perfection prevent progress. And I know you're a big believer in that too. And that's why iteration is so important. And with innovation, again, it doesn't have to be an original idea in terms of brand new concept or brand new product. You could look at an existing product, an existing service, an existing idea. By building upon it, that is in effect innovation. And that way you can accelerate. Because I will say personally, in my career, as I reflect back on certain things, I used to, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, I used to kind of beat myself up internally in my head about why am I not more creative? I was like, why don't I come up with these original ideas or original things? But what I realized probably about 8 to 9 years ago was that I was highly innovative, but I was really innovative on building upon an idea, concept, product, or service that was in place and augmenting it. And I started realizing that actually was something I was halfway decent at and was really effective, and it made an impact, and nobody cared if that it wasn't my original idea, because I'd always give credit to the source. I'd always say like, hey, so and so said this, or there's this thing out here by whoever, and then I would talk about how we could potentially build upon it, and it resonated. And so I learned to understand I don't necessarily have to be Steve Jobs. I don't have to think about creating an iPod or an iPhone. It's like, how do you make the iPod more effective? How do you make the iPhone more effective? And that sort of iteration and innovation has really helped me in my career.
It's a skill in itself. That's You cannot be great at everything. We both agree with that. Some people are like Steve Jobs. They create things. They have a wild imaginations. And Steve Jobs failed a lot before creating iPhone, by the way. Learning experiences. But some people like you, for example, you're great when you have something, a product is already established and make it better. It's like some people who want to create a business from zero. or you have people who want to, we talked about it, want to buy an established business and make it better. And those are two different skills. I mean, you can have both.
Sure.
But there are different skills, and they are both great. You know, when you come up with something brand new, you go to Shark Tank, you expose it, and you make $1 billion with Mark Cuban. That's fantastic. But how many people actually are able to do that?
Right. Yeah.
Compared to people who can actually take something that is valid, that is a good business, but they're lacking some pieces in that business that maybe an investor will be great at, and by tweaking it, make that business raising to multi-million-dollar businesses. So I think that it's a different skill, but it's both very, I mean, extremely positive skills to have. So it's good that you know that for yourself, which one you are feeling more comfortable with and great at, not half decent, and going from there. So yeah, all good nuggets.
You know who actually is a sense of inspiration, but it embodies that aspect of maybe not being a initial creator, but an iterator, and through that was innovation. I'm going to say this name, and you're probably going to be like, "Oh man, got to get this guy a cookie," but
Lord,
Weird Al Yankovic. What? Because he doesn't create many original songs in terms of original melodies or things like that, but he takes Beat It and makes Eat It. He takes other songs and he tweaks the words. He uses the same sound melodies and stuff like that, but tweaks it and it becomes an innovative thing. But he built an entire career doing parodies of other people's songs.
true. I was not thinking you were going to say that name, but it's true. And his bank account is not lower than some who invented from zero. So
No, they made a movie on him.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So
Weird Al.
yeah. So there are like,
How many people are like, I never thought I'd be hearing about Weird Al when we talk about innovation and iteration.
right. I'm me first. Me first. But hey, how many times are you watching TV and you watch like I mean, to mention Shark Tank again, and you said, oh, I should have think about this. Why I didn't think about this? I mean, it makes sense. And that's the creative aspect of this, but it's not for everybody.
No.
So we need to be able to accept the fact that okay, we can think about options, but not everybody are able to do that. But majority of people are able to see what may have the issue, when it be the issue in a business, and make it better.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to create Gangster's Paradise. You have to iterate and do Amish Paradise.
Coolio. Oh boy.
Those videos just crack me up. With Weird Al, I can watch those things over and over again.
You're a TikTok fan, right?
Oh yeah, I am. Yeah, I've lost many hours of my life to TikTok, just scrolling through that. Anyway, here we go. Amish
right.
Paradise. I'm going to listen to that while I eat my cookie after this episode. But anyway, going back to
not here.
Not here. I have crumbles all over. So yeah, but in all seriousness, when as you're thinking about it, and this can be applied personally. Of course, we take a lot of business lens with things like this because that's what we spend a lot of our time with. But even personally, you can think of ways where, how do I iterate? How do I make things just a little bit better, not worrying about being perfect? Actually, I'll give you kind of a loosely related example. I remember a long time ago having a discussion about my boys, and they weren't doing certain things to the standard that mama wanted them to be doing. And I remember but they were making progress, but they weren't getting recognized for the progress. It was recognized that it wasn't how it was supposed to be. And we had to chat it through and discuss it with them. So there's a lot of things. So I guess the lesson I want to touch on a bit when it comes to innovation and iteration is recognize the small wins along the way. Like, iteration doesn't mean you go from imperfect to perfect in one step. And very rarely do you ever achieve perfection anyway. But when you have the progress, you have those iterations, recognize it, celebrate it. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a massive celebration. It could be words of encouragement. And a lot of times, just those little words of encouragement, or what I call intentional appreciation, makes a world of difference to people. They just want to know, hey, you noticed that this is improving. And that's going to inspire them to continue, in many cases, to build upon those improvements further. So celebrate the small wins, embrace iteration, embrace version 0.5. Don't let perfection get in the way of progress. And I think you'll find that a lot of things start improving a little bit quicker, maybe, than in the past by taking the other approach.
Amen to that. I think it's a perfect ending for this segment.
Yeah, I got milk and cookies I want to go get. So anyway, so winners, thank you for joining us for this Monday mindset and embellishing my kookiness. But please remember to subscribe, follow, and share. Maybe not after this episode. Maybe we'll see how it goes. But if you have any quotes and quips you want to share, please send them. We'll give you a shout out. We'll read them on the air here. Make sure to please join us for Wanderlust Wednesday coming up. A big shout out again to Nick Menard and Associates with Dream Vacations. You heard earlier in this episode, Nick's journey when he was doing the travel agency, but also just touching on like some of the different vendors and things like that. So hope you enjoyed today's episode. Be well and take care, winners.
Thank you, winners. Bye-bye.